Disclaimer. The host of this podcast, Timothy Patrick and Will Foley, are by no means professionals. However, having lived experience with mental illness themselves, they have gained useful perspectives on common mental health issues that some of us struggle to overcome on a daily basis. By sharing their stories, they hope to create connection. By creating connection, they hope to help you find your purpose. And through purpose, we can all begin to build the foundations for positive mental health. This is the Above Ground Podcast.
Are you ready to lace up your boots, throw up your horns, and jump into the pit? Then let's stomp the stigmas of mental illness. It's time for Above Ground Podcast. Now, Will Foley and Timothy Patrick.
Welcome back to Above Ground Podcast.
Yeehaw! You heard it here, folks. Welcome back.
That's right. What's up, Timmy? Timmy!
What's up? How's it going,
TPP,
Will?
man.
That's me.
You down with TPP?
Yeah, you know me.
Woo! A new year, another podcast to drop here into your...
A new year, a new episode.
That's right.
And the
Dropping
truth of the
into your
matter
ear
is,
holes.
2021 is not going to be any different from 2020 unless you make the decision to make it different.
That's true. And you know what? We actually hit the record button with no idea what the hell this podcast episode was going to be about.
But we were going good until you just jinxed it right there.
No, I didn't jinx it because I think it's important to be able to improvise.
Yeah, we can
Improvising is super important. Even more than jazz.
Hold on a minute.
Jazz hands, woo! And I think we proved something with this last set of sessions that we've done for some of these podcasts because we had to improvise a little bit, setting up a makeshift studio in my basement and not freaking out about it, and like actually things have gone relatively smooth, and I'm learning about my equipment and what I need to fix and what I need to upgrade and what I know is working. So improvising.
We're trying to figure out what we can do to help serve you better.
That's right. But
what
are we really trying to find out what they don't seem to be answering us. So is it where are we at?
We have like 3 listeners, so those 3 listeners, we're talking to you.
And everybody in New Zealand, thank you so much.
Yay, New
we're
Zealand
like 153 rocks. Out of God knows how many.
We should have said that earlier.
How many mental health podcasts are in New Zealand now? I don't know how many there are in the world.
If those emails are correct that we're rating in your wonderful country.
Yes.
Then
thank you.
We thank you.
Yes. And we want to rate.
Because
we want to feel like we're making a difference.
Sure. We want to feel like a little bit important, I guess. I think we feel that we have some good things to offer, though, and some things that obviously we have done throughout the years.
We're almost 2 years into this.
We were grateful enough to stumble and fall on our faces, so that way we can take what we learned and feed it back to you guys and gals.
Yeah, and it's all about feeding back, because we get back from feeding you.
Feed me.
So and that kind of, I guess that kind of, so what happens, what about self-sustaining? As far as, like, how do you keep it going, keep the fire burning, keep the rock and roll alive when you don't seem to be getting feedback about it? Is it enough to self-sustain? When do you and trust me, we're not going anywhere. Like, we're invested in this, but it's the question about it is, especially when you have mental health issues, is when is enough, when is too much, and when is it, when does the self-sustaining stop to where you get to a point where you just don't want to do it anymore?
And when you get to that point, I guess it's okay if you feel that you need to step out and to take a break or rest or whatever it is,
Yeah, and it's kind of funny that this topic is coming up now just because there's some stuff that's going on in behind the scenes here for me that I'm needing to take a break from. Not the podcast, but some other stuff that I'm needing to take a break from just because I don't feel like I'm adding anything to it. I don't feel that I'm getting.
And again, if you feel like a small pat of butter scraped over too much bread, you know what I mean? Then maybe it is time to at least acknowledge it, and say, I need to do something.
When you spread yourself too thin, when do you realize that you've spread yourself too thin? And do you notice when you spread yourself too thin?
Do I?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
What happens? Do you have is there a certain part of that pattern? Is there a pattern? Or is it something that, just kind of happens?
It's more, I don't know if there's necessarily a pattern. It's more of, it's that feeling of overwhelmed. It's that overwhelmed feeling of I have some stuff that I really need to do and I just can't get to it.
Is it stuff that you need to do, stuff that you want to do, or stuff that you feel obligated to do?
No, some of it's stuff that I really need to do. Yeah. And, sometimes I choose sleep over those things, but because I know that sleep is important to my mental health routine.
Or is it an excuse not to do it? Is it resistance to not do it?
No. The only thing that sometimes happens is when I do have a longer list and I end up getting, a couple hours to do whatever it is, I'll tend to forget the things that I need to do, So it's like, I feel like it happens all at once.
But when it happens all at once, does it become like this overwhelming tornado?
Yeah. Yep. Because
is it self-inflicted?
Some of it is because because what happens is so maybe there is a pattern. I forget to do the things, and then when I get overwhelmed and remember some of the things, well, I not necessarily remember, it's things will pop up because I needed to do them, and I'm like, I get to the point where now I notice that it's gone because I needed to replenish it or something, but I can't do it because I'm busy at work or doing something else. So it's tough to really accomplish, I guess.
That color wheel, though, that overwhelming color wheel that you see is in that overwhelming color wheel that you see.
Hindsight's 20/20.
That's true. Hindsight is 20/20. Is there a particular time when you notice it's too late, it's gone, and you can't get it back? Or is it that you don't want to get it back?
Well, I think, wait, what are we talking about? Like the things that need to be done?
Yeah.
I think I usually try and triage. I usually try and triage it. If I can kind of step back a little bit and go, okay, what really needs to be, what do I have to get done soon, And I also look at it, for me, this is how I look at it, as what do I need to get done first to help me become less stressed?
Huh.
Because
do you always know what you need?
See, that's a creature of habit. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean? Give me bread, peanut butter, and jelly, and bananas, and, set my clothes out for the night before and clean laundry, and I'm good.
You make the same lunch every day?
I do.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Yeah? Is it because of...
I like it, but...
Is it because of the factors that you have to deal with? And that's a good way. Is it?
I've tried to do a couple different things. It's just hard to, eat in a truck and certain things you need to keep cold, certain things you need, you want them warm. It's just easy, and I enjoy peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah, me too.
I
love
like the peanut butter. I like it a lot.
A lot.
So yeah, I just I don't know. I like to kind of prepare a little bit so that way, because I know that life gets hectic, and I know that I can't control when it gets hectic or how it's going to be hectic. So I try to when I do have, like I say, a small block of time, I try to do the things that will help me become less stressed when they do get hectic. If that makes sense.
But do you always feel like doing those things?
No.
Okay.
No.
And I think I'm asking you this from just for some perspective for myself, because the first of the year I decided to make a couple of decisions. I decided to make a decision to step away from my board position, and it's because I feel like I'm being pulled in so many different directions and spread so thin sometimes that I don't feel like I'm adding anything.
For those of you that don't know, Will is the board member for the Capital Region here, AFSP.
Well, I was until I decided to step away, and
but you did
when I step away, which will be,
you did what you thought was beneficial for you, and I think that is what's most important and what should be commended, really, because there's a lot of people that can't do that.
Yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because a couple episodes back or whatever this is, we talked about validation, acknowledgement, and stuff, and I kind of use that as a springboard for some validity to what I was doing.
Okay.
Rather than just acknowledging my own journey is enough of a reason to do what I'm doing.
Right.
And that,
Bill's getting naked here, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, it's true. It's
no,
true, and I think that, and I know we've had conversations about, where, we get into these stupid online things with people who have a lot of credentials next to their name, and they get, they get all uppity about their degree and think that they know more than you do because, they went to school that they spent way too much money for, and they're not going to make
paying for it.
And they're not going to make that much money to do what they do, and they didn't necessarily. Maybe they did it for the right reason. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they did it because they just saw the need that they could make money at it. I don't know.
Right. We don't know. So
I don't want to judge, but it's like and some of that stuff does affect me in a negative way that I'm like, okay, well, if I got to validate myself, and that was one of the ways I validated was through being on that. And now granted, I went through the peer program and stuff too, so there's validity there for sure, man.
Oh, totally. I mean, you were a volunteer for years before.
Totally. So it's like, but it's like, I kind of like it, and I always tend to go through these downspouts when I close something off or when I finish something, like, and it's that.
Is that like a second guessing type thing, or
part of it is that you're afraid you're not going to get it back. That was part of the reason why, like, for many years when I was able to, like, obviously my body has physically changed, and so has the climate around performing, obviously, with all the things that have happened. But I used to never say no to a gig, whether it was a paying gig or not.
Right, yeah.
Whether it was beneficial to me or not. It was because I was always afraid somebody wasn't going to ask again.
Sure.
I was always afraid to say no.
I could see that.
Because I was afraid that I would never get to say yes again.
Yeah.
And
I in fact, now that you say that, I'm pretty sure I've done pretty much the same thing in different situations that I've been in too.
I just think, and it does, and it plays into your, and it also plays into your self-esteem and self-worth.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of colors in that, there's some darks and some lights. There's things about me that I feel good about, and then there's things about me that I hate. And I mean, I don't want to say hate. I don't hate myself, but it's, like, second guessing is very easy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Second guessing is very easy when you don't stand on a solid surface of confidence all the time.
But I think you, by what you were saying, one of your things was you kind of used that as a crutch almost.
Yeah, I suppose it is kind of a crutch.
But now, your leg has healed and you can kind of walk on your own and still carry yourself.
Well, I think after you create enough of a body of work, and I mean, especially, like when I look at Above Ground Podcast, I mean, there's a lot of podcasts that don't get past the first 7 episodes, man. There's a lot of podcasts that won't be around next year. There's a lot of podcasts that won't survive the turn of this calendar that we just had. But I think that I've learned a lot, and I have to realize that the only way I'm going to learn more is by not relying on the old crutches and having that childlike mind. But it's hard to have a childlike mind at almost 50 years old, man. It's like, it's, But I think recognizing it is huge, Is it?
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe I'm just not. And I'm not asking.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, in general, I think recognizing is huge because, I know, again, I've done those things and I probably didn't even realize it a lot of the times. But now that you kind of brought it up, I'm like kind of going through like past scenarios in my head going, yeah, but it's one of those shoulda, coulda, woulda type things. And you're like, it is what it is, man. And, I try to, I wouldn't say I'm a firm believer, but I try to believe that whatever's going to happen is going to happen anyways.
It is, and I don't know if you can necessarily you can't necessarily control the outcome. You can only control your response to it. Yeah, and it's one of those things that I don't really know, to be honest with you.
I think for I guess I don't know. I think for things that let's say, how should I say this? Things that, when you're out and about and you're either at work or you're connecting with other people that you don't know, being mindful that there is the 1 in 5 people out there that live with mental illness. And I think, some things that can help would be to don't judge or don't label them. Like, don't use, if you do know that, they live with mental illness, don't use that as a guide. You know what I mean? Don't use that as a point to go, oh, he's got mental illness or she's, crazy, kind of thing. You don't want to blame or place any guilt on top of them. Be open and understanding. Be willing to listen. And always be kind. You should be kind to everybody, that you're able to be kind to. Just, if you're in a situation where it's more of an interpersonal thing, don't minimize their concerns either. If they have a question or anything like that, if you're going somewhere and they might be anxious because they have never been, at a place like that or in this specific place, they may ask questions like, what it looks like, how we're gonna,
There's some things that you're just not gonna know.
Yeah, there isn't. But, but just, I'm saying, like, for somebody on the outside, that could be a friend or whatever, acquaintance, and some, just don't. I'm just asking to keep in mind not to judge somebody for asking those type of questions.
Well, do you think like my reaction to some of these things is because I see it through my depressive sort of lens that I...
Sure, some of it, yeah. I would say yes, yeah. I mean, also, which I think we had just talked about earlier, was is using past experiences too. You know what I mean? Past outcomes. We use that kind of thing too. It's like, well, I did this before and this happened. Okay, well, that was 6 months ago or 6 days ago.
Right, and you know different now.
Now is now, so let's, try not to focus on what happened before and just focus on what you're doing now.
Or kind of meet yourself where you're at.
I guess you could say that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I think at the end of the day, I'm just speaking about like the whole crutch thing. If you can get rid of your crutch and learn to walk and run and jump and without hurting any of your knees or any of your ligaments and all that kind of good stuff, that would be a huge feat.
Do you think people with mental illness sometimes use it as a crutch? Do you think there's people out there that use it as a crutch?
Sure, I think so, yeah. Yeah, a lot of people get stuck on diagnosis and, what they don't necessarily know what to do because they have not had a diagnosis yet, or they have numerous diagnoses and they yeah, I do think so. Some people use excuses. I
mean, there's some legitimacy to
sure. Some of them are
to
absolutely.
Some of the issues that you would face that are not necessarily crutches. They're just the way that your brain works.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think that can get in the way of actually knowing whether you're using it as a crutch or not? Do you think it clouds your judgment?
Yeah, I guess it probably could. It's variable. Do you?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it in my own personal life where, the people use it to not validate, I shouldn't say that, because now that we know what the words,
Justify,
yeah, justification for why they're like this. Oh, it's my illness. Oh, it's my illness. Oh, it's my diagnosis. Oh, it's this, it's that. And I suppose that there's some legitimacy to certain things where you could say, sure, it's your diagnosis. Of course you're going to think this way, or of course you're going to act like that when you have that type of diagnosis. But
But if something's coming up, time and time again, if the same same thing keeps happening, you know what I mean? It's kind of like it becomes an excuse. I feel like,
Yeah, I could see where I could see where that could happen, that it could become an excuse. It could be just, it couldn't be very comfortable to be,
yeah.
And I suppose that kind of plays into victimhood, I guess, if you look at it in a certain
maybe. I mean,
way, but
sometimes you don't know.
But sometimes I don't think that you are feeling that.
Right. And like you said, it's, I know for you have said it before, and I personally have felt it early on with my depression. It's like I didn't really know any better. It was just kind of, it was normal for me. It was like that comfy pair of jeans that, you just sit with and go, yeah. Right?
Yeah, shit, they got holes in the knees, but they're still very comfortable, and I still like wearing them.
Right.
Oh, the crotch just ripped out. Oh, well, they're still okay.
You start to experience different things and maybe talk with other people, and you're like, wait a minute, like, You don't wake up with this feeling of dread every day? Like, really? So wait a minute, are you the one that's not normal, or am I not normal?
Right. It's like, where is normal?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to use
is...
that word, but But yeah, you get into that predicament with people and with yourself.
Do you think it becomes so predictable that it's just easy? It's just easier to
Like, be complacent?
Yeah. Complacency, predictability breeds complacency.
Yeah. Sure. Yep. Yeah. And then on top of it, again, if you don't know any better,
But what if you do know better and you just can't seem to break that pattern?
I feel like there should be, I feel like there's help out there. It's maybe hard to get to, or, and these stages are hard to achieve, each level that each year of wisdom or whatever, these are different stages. They're not easy stages to achieve. So it's, it's not something that's going to kind of happen overnight,
Well, nothing happens overnight, but if
Right,
you do
but
it
you know
enough
what I mean.
over a couple of days, it becomes
Yeah, I mean,
cyclical.
I always say, like, I think the beginning is just being mindful of it. And then once you, like you said, once you realize it and go, hey, it's been, a week, 2 weeks since I've been feeling like this, and if you want to start journaling, taking some notes, like Monday I felt like this, Tuesday I felt like this, even go as far as writing down your thoughts, and you can go back to it and look at it and, and say, this, there may be something that I'm missing,
Sometimes it's just easy to stay
Oh, sure.
low,
Definitely easy.
because then you don't have to question. You don't have to second guess. You
Right.
don't have to. You just know it's comfortable. It's just so comfortable that it's.
Yeah,
know.
I mean, as well as, we all know that when you're in this, it can wreak some havoc. You know what I mean? It can take its toll on your everyday life.
Well, it does take a toll on your everyday
Like, you could
life.
literally do nothing and just sometimes using your strategies and coping with different situations throughout a day, you're drained mentally and you're just done for the day, and you could have just, like I said, you could have just, not really did any kind of strenuous work, but just because of, what you're going through in your head.
Well, yeah, doing the laps in your head will make you really tired really fast.
Yeah.
Really fast.
Growth is work, growth is ugly.
But I think you can plateau and get stuck at
Sure.
where you've grown to, and then be like, okay,
I've done
again,
that.
I don't know where to go next, because everything just sounds repetitive again. It's like nobody's really giving you any new ideas. They're just all recycled ideas.
Sure, and I think that's when you should really start to look within.
Is it you, or is it the
Well,
ideas?
not necessarily that, but don't even just, more of the ideas of, like, this guy say this girl says this, I read this, and this, and it all kind of seems the same. So it's like, maybe try something different for yourself. Like, look within and say, well, what would work for me? Or what am I looking for to even be considered help? Or do I want help? Or do I want X? Or do I want Z?
Or is it just easier to stay where I'm at because you just don't want
Right. And if you're happy where you're at, kudos to that. You know what I mean?
But what if you're really not happy there?
Well, then that's...
And I think
again,
most people aren't really happy where they're at. I mean, I'm not saying that there's not people out there who are genuinely happy with...
Right. I know what you're saying.
But
though.
I think that's a different level that is... Sometimes, dude, I think it's almost unattainable.
Could be.
And maybe that is comparison. Maybe you're comparing yourself to somebody else that...
And it's also unattainable to some image in your head. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be realistic, Like, this is, I think, a lot of the problem is there's people out there that I've come across that are, they're down low and depressed and nothing's going right. And, it's like 2 weeks now and they're just, and they're finding so many things to be, mad about or upset about. And then all of a sudden they get a significant other in their life and everything's hunky-dory all of a sudden.
Well, that's that happy-go-lucky.
So did something change, or was it just another person that maybe gave you some acknowledgement, or, you know what I mean? If that's what you were searching for, then great. But if that's what you're searching for, you're not going to be happy without that, whether that thing is bad for you or not.
Happiness comes from within.
Right.
And I suppose it's really about digging deep enough in and getting into those caves and looking at the cave drawings and saying, okay, whoa, that cave drawing's a little bit weird, man. Why is that way?
Right. But at the same time, go, well, is it weird because I'm not used to seeing it, because that's not how today's standards are? Let's go back and look at the cave drawings and go, Jesus, they did it this way, and it seems very simplistic, and maybe it's part of what we should be doing now.
Well, I don't necessarily know if I'm talking about, like, systems as much as it is. No,
I'm not either.
As much as it is the internal, internal landscape of saying, well, you need to make a change and being comfortable enough knowing that you need to make the change. But what happens if you just, is it a weakness to not find a way to make that change?
I wouldn't say it's a weakness. No, I would say that there's going to be variables depending on the person, but again, you have to look at it as, let me ask you this question. Do you think someone who makes excuses, is that a weakness?
I don't know if it's a weakness as much as it is a part of them that it hasn't been developed.
Okay. So that's what
and maybe it's just underdevelopment.
Right.
But I do think that
and it could be like a
responsibility. I mean, if you're
also.
it could be a negative coping strategy.
Like shelving it,
sure,
kind of thing.
Shelving it because it's just too bad to look at, or too hard, or you just think it's going to be insurmountable.
Putting things off. You know what I mean?
Sure, and procrastination, and I'm a professional procrastinator for sure. But it's not like that in all parts of my life. It's just certain things. But I think it's the things that you need the most that you're afraid to unearth. I suppose the archaeology dig hasn't. You keep avoiding that side of the soil because it's going to till up some shit.
It could, and it could be part of that image in your head too. When you get to this point, you're going to have this. And then you get to that point and you're like, wait a minute, am I really going to have this?
And maybe it scares you not to have that.
Right. So then you have to look at it and go, well, do I need that? And what is that? What's that going to do for me?
What is that? And I suppose maybe that's the overwhelming question is, what is that? What is that thing? Or what is that idea? Or what is that?
Is it?
That's right. What?
Yeah.
That's right.
You have to... I think, again, each individual has to figure that out for themselves. Not saying they can't, have a struggle buddy to lean on. Not saying they can't get help from other areas. But, that deep question right there is something that they have to answer. No one can answer it for them.
That's right. The deep questions are what you have to answer, and you have to be willing to unearth the soil and till it up to see what you can find in those answers. And I wasn't really sure where this conversation was going to go, but I think we've posed some interesting questions, especially with the new year. What are you unearthing, and what caves are you afraid to walk into?
Yeah.
I know I'm afraid to walk into some caves because I'm afraid of what?
Seeing your father in a black mask?
Nah, I'm more afraid of seeing myself in a black mask. Because that's really what it is, man. He wasn't seeing his father. He was seeing himself. And that's really why Yoda sent Luke into that cave, was because the darkness is really in you. It's really you that you're fighting.
The
It's
hero's
really
journey.
you that you're fighting, man. The hero's journey, absolutely. Damn, Joseph Campbell. Damn you. Damn you. That's what started this whole thing, too.
But I think just having these conversations, maybe they won't be useful or helpful to others, or maybe even appealing. But just to get some of this stuff out there, I think that's kind of what we stand for. Is just talking about some of these difficult things and going into those caves, the dark corners, and without our spelunking boots and light,
without our lightsabers, man.
Yeah.
Can't go in without the lightsaber, because if you can go in with the lightsaber, but if you don't have the Force with you, the lightsaber's not really going to do much good for you.
But the Force is really within you.
That's right. The Force is within you. That's where it is. Well, I know this is probably not exactly what we're used to saying on this podcast, but hey, it's the new year, man. This is the new us. These are the ABCs of me, baby.
It's not the new us. We could change next week. Who knows?
That's true.
It's just us for tonight. This is what we did for this evening.
It's true, man. Sometimes you got to ask the deep questions. Sometimes you got to ask just questions and just start a conversation.
Right. Start a conversation, and if that conversation can spark more questions and make you ponder, make you stop and pause and assess your mental health and assess your situation, say, hey, maybe I should write down 3 goals, or maybe I should come up with some things to be thankful for, or
maybe I should get a Yoda and put him on my shoulder and run around and do handstands.
Well, that too.
Well, I hope this started a conversation for you and yourself, just to get the ball rolling, man.
Don't forget, if you like this episode, share it with some friends.
That's right. Star it on Apple Podcast. It makes it easier to find the podcast on Apple. Scribe us a review. If you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. I'm not sure how Google works. I'm not sure how the Audible thing works, because I don't really use Audible for podcasts, but I know we're there. Yeah.
But they can always email us, right?
Yes, you can always email us at abovegroundpodcast@gmail.com. You can always find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
You can always leave us a review, too. We'll read it on the
leave
air.
us a review. Write a comment on the YouTube channel. Do that, man. We're out there. We're around. Find us, or we'll find you.
On that note.
So until next time, be well.
Be safe.
Be
above.